This is the Internet Web Plain Talk, and I'm Norman Liss. This program is dedicated to helping clarify all the confusion that exists about what the Internet is, what the World Wide Web is, and how it works. And today we're going to start by telling you the basics of how to design a web page. And my guest today is someone who's really most experienced in this very, very young field. Her name is Klauberg Paustian, and she's with NetSurf Technologies. And Christine, you're the expert, and we're going to plunge right in and say something very, very basic. What is a website?
What is a website? Well, if you need to talk about what's a website, you first need to know how it fits into the overall context of the Internet as a whole. The Internet's not a new product. It's been around for about 30 years, began as a project for the Defense Department to prove that
Wait a minute. You're saying it's been around for 30 years, but the wheel's been around forever, but the automobile was recent. So although the Internet has been around for 30 years, it's really been very, very recent that the World Wide Web, comparatively recent, has come up.
That's true. It's been around for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years.
That's all.
And the thing that made the web happen was the development of a piece of software called Mosaic. You may have heard it referred to as a browser, and it lets you take what was traditionally a very character-based, plain, vanilla, boring interface that was populated.
You're using a lot of terms here, and I don't mean plain vanilla by that, but we want to talk in plain vanilla.
Okay.
So what's an interface? You see, we have to assume that our audience doesn't know anything, because the truth is, I have found in my experience that although people hear the terms a lot, they really don't understand what it's all about. So what we have to talk about is how the web works and what it does, and so we have to start and say, now we know, of course, that computers all over the world are tied together on the Internet, and that we know that this thing called the World Wide Web brings them together in a way that you can go from one thing to another thing to another thing. They are linked together, so to speak. Right. But what we're talking about is the presence of an organization on this web in one place that is linked to others. And the term is used, a website, a World Wide Web site. And what I'm trying to do is define what a site is.
A site is a company's presence, if you will, a place on the Internet in which a company can project its image, communicate with its customers or its clients, offer good information, a measure of fun, links to other places on the Internet that
Can anybody establish a website?
Anyone. It's a great leveler, if you will. Websites are there for individuals to mega corporations. My daughter's 18. She has a web page. Not a whole lot of people visit it, but she's there.
I have a nephew whose son, who is now 4 years old, has a web page. Has a web page.
Yeah.
Is a web page and a website the same thing?
Websites are generally comprised of a set of web pages. The idea is that to present information in the form that you might see in a book. So a set of hyperlinks, meaning a link from one page to another, you could compare to the table of contents in a book that takes you then to a specific section in the book on the topic that you might be interested in.
So if I were to establish a Norman Liss website, I could start with a first page, which is called a home page.
Home page or a welcome page.
A welcome page, and that says, here is what Norman Liss is. Now, if you want to find out more about him, you want to find about mustaches or glasses or television.
Or ties.
Or anything like that. Each of those could have a separate page
Yes.
Within the site.
Within Norman's site, exactly.
And you could just, I use the term like the point and shoot camera, you can point and click. Let's take an example. Let's go. We have some illustrations that we can point to today, and we have something which is about your company, which is NetSurf Technologies. Now, you have basically, for your company, you do have a website, don't you?
I sure do.
And that website does what?
Well, it talks about...
Let's look at it while you're talking about it.
It talks about who we are, what we do, why we're different, what we can do for you.
That's all on your site.
It's all on our site. We also point to a selection of our client sites.
So you start with this homepage. Is that term?
Yes.
And that homepage says, here we are, and where do you want to go from here?
It conveys our company image so that there's something constant about the Internet presence as it relates to our other corporate identity, our standard corporate identity. It talks about what we can offer, who we are, who the principals are, our experience, those kinds of things.
Those are different pages?
They're all different pages. They're all accessible from the central homepage.
So if I want to come to you, I find NetSurf, right? I find it. How do I find it originally? How do I get there?
If you're a very big company with a very high-profile name like a Yamaha, for example, most folks recognize very quickly that they can simply look for Yamaha.com, which is like Yamaha's spot on the web, and find it very easily. That's its address. For smaller companies, though, or companies like NetSurf Technologies, whose domain name was already snatched up by somebody else, you may have to be a bit more creative, which makes it more difficult for people to reach you directly, unless they know about directory systems. There are a number of directories available on the Internet which make it easy to look up companies, look up pages, look up topics or categories of interest, so that you can very easily then move directly by clicking to the pages that you're interested in.
So actually, you can find NetSurf by going through, isn't the term search engines? That
search engine or directory system. There are many of them available.
But we've been on your homepage, and it's a very good example because certainly you are doing what you tell your clients to do and what you're telling your audience to do. So from your homepage, you can go to a page that has other things on it, and we have a selection of those. So what are some of the things that are shown on this one?
On this particular page, we have sample logos from a selection of our clients. It's not a comprehensive list, but they are perhaps among the most interesting of the logos that we make available. And we make use of this environment, if you will, by making it easy for someone who's interested in seeing what we do, the caliber of the work that we do. Apart from that, they can then click to each of those logos and go to the sites that are underneath. So if they want to see
meaning that
the next page, if you will, the click away. So from the Museum of Fine Arts logo, for example, they can click and go directly to the Museum of Fine Arts pages, have an experience there, and then come back. If they're interested then in digital journal, if they're interested in electronics, they can get directly to those pages. So it makes use of the Internet environment, if you will, to make it easy to present information in a consolidated fashion so that folks can get to it very easily.
How about locally? Do you do things locally?
Sure do. We have a number of local clients. Caramore, the music festival in Katona is one. We work with local travel agents and florists and commercial real estate.
Caramore. I find Caramore very interesting. Now, Caramore has a very, very colorful homepage. And of course, we all know Caramore is a wonderful performing arts center here. But their programs change, so you can change what you have on,
Absolutely.
can't you? Caramore has new programs and has to come up with new things. How does that work?
It's a cardinal rule of doing a website properly. The information cannot be static. The information has to be dynamic, has to be changing all the time. It's an environment in which you want to encourage interactivity. You want to encourage people to come back to you for some reason or another. In the case of Caramore, where they have an online box office, we will add the new season coming up so that individuals who are interested can simply browse through the offerings, browse through the schedule of the festival, and order their tickets directly. So
perhaps what was on Caramore last year by the end of March will be changed,
Absolutely.
And maybe in April will be changed
Absolutely.
and will be more comprehensive.
Yes, and there are components of the website that probably will remain static. For example, there's a virtual tour. You wouldn't change that very often, but the box office elements certainly would change, as would some special feature material that might be added at one point or another.
Let's talk a bit about what kind of organizations could use a website.
Sure.
And maybe we ought to talk about what makes one effective. Should everyone have one?
Probably not. It is.
Everybody seems to be rushing.
You're right.
I've got to have a website.
Yeah,
Why?
It's the thing to do.
Why?
It's gotten a lot of hype. However, it's important in determining whether or not a web environment is the place you need to be as an extension of your existing media suite. Whether or not it's the right place for you, you need to decide what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Well, what are people trying to accomplish when they establish a website? And we're talking about commercial organizations. We're talking about service organizations. We're talking about people that have products to sell. We are talking about people who maybe want to generate leads. I mean, there are so many different things. Is that where you start? Is what's your goals?
What are your goals? It's important to know what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, what do you build?
But so many people are not in saying what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, right now we're looking at one that shows a variety of things. What is this exactly?
Okay. This is a homepage or welcome page for a site that's owned by Amusement Consultants. It's a vending consulting company. They own and equip places like Nathan's with the games, the pinball games and what have you. They have a very interesting approach, actually, to using the Internet. They're in a very specialized field. They're interested in attracting talent for their from an employment perspective. So they have not only information about who they are, but they also offer an online electronics aptitude test, which is really very interesting. It's an online application blank.
Really?
And you have to actually go through a test and identify what various electrical symbols mean and so on. And that's then shipped directly to an email box where Amusement Consultants has someone read every day checking to make sure that all the mail's been retrieved and responded to. We also address topics of general interest in terms of the amusement industry. What's it all about? What is an FEC, for example? It's a term that's used in that industry. Didn't mean anything to me. It's a family entertainment center, things like that. So they accomplish a number of goals. They get out information about who they are. They provide a vehicle for communication back interactively from individuals who might be the next engineer for their company. They also offer a measure of fun. The whole idea here is it's based on the concept of a pinball machine.
The variety of businesses that can use it is amazing. We'll get into a little more of that in a moment. But first, I do want to remind our audience that we're talking today about designing a website. And my guest today is Christine Klauberg Paustian, who is with NetSurf Technologies. And she's kind of giving us a basic primer, I suppose, on what it's all about. And I'm not sure I know what it's all about, despite the fact I feel as if I know a lot more than others, but I also, as I've said before in this program, I'm dealing from a point of ignorance. And maybe that's what we're all about today, because it's changing so fast that as much as we know, we don't know anything tomorrow.
It's a tremendous challenge. It's an environment that's literally changing overnight, and keeping on the edge of it is a technical challenge that not many companies can afford the time to achieve. You're spending so much time doing the work that's at hand that trying to stay ahead of the technology is something there's not a lot of time for.
How does someone become an expert in this young field? Now, you have a long background with General Foods. You worked with this sort of thing. You saw it evolve, and 3 years ago, you saw the handwriting on the wall and started this business.
What's interesting is my technical experience with Kraft General Foods, which was of 15 years duration, really didn't have anything to do with the Internet at all. The Internet is something that's very new to corporate America. It was seen as a playground of Unix types, and corporate America really didn't embrace Unix until some few years ago. I had an interest in the Internet from a personal perspective,
really?
and did some work in broadcasting and hosted forums for the broadcasting profession in radio broadcasting. And found that my experience in the marketing services function at Kraft, when that job disappeared out from under me, was a good time to try to make a career out of what had been a fun time for me, which had taught me a lot technically, but not in the context of my own paying position.
Right place in the right
place
time.
at the right time.
the variety of types of organizations is varied. I know you worked for many large and small, and the cost can run to very, very little to an enormous amount, depending on what's done. How does one start? Let's say we're an organization, and we've heard all, as you said, the hype that's out there, and we said, okay, should I have a website? And if so, how do I start? How do I start? How do I start?
If you make the determination that this is something that you want to do, you probably need to look first at the marketing materials that you have at hand already. They'll give you a good place to start. That doesn't mean that translating those materials directly into this electronic medium is going to work for you. The concepts probably will translate very well, but they need to be repackaged. Long text doesn't work well in this environment. People are interested in things that are visually grabbing, that contain good information, that are delivered in short bursts of...
But there's a danger in too much graphics, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely, because the whole problem about graphics relates to the file size. They become very large in size, which translates to very long in downloading across the typical modem.
Now let's talk about file size and downloading some terms. It means that the amount of information in there, in whatever technical form it is large, and therefore if you want to see it, then it's going to take more time to get to it.
That's right.
Is that what it amounts to?
That's exactly right.
So sometimes when you turn on your computer on the internet and you go to something, and it takes time for that to fill in sort of the colors and the pictures and everything. The more graphics, the more time it takes.
That's a good assumption to begin with, although there are other variables that can very much impact the speed at which your browser fills in with pictures and with text.
What's a browser?
A browser is the piece of software that you use. You might see the name Netscape or Mosaic, even America Online and Prodigy have a piece of software that makes you able to understand the information that's on the internet.
But you don't really have to know anything because they all have browsers.
Just point and click.
Point and click. Here we go again.
Right.
So I just started, and so we're talking about determining what I want to accomplish. Okay, and see what the material I have. Where do we go from there, Christine?
The idea then is to formulate an idea, a storyboard, if you will, for how you will accomplish those goals in this environment. Typically, a company needs to do a few things. They need to convey who they are, what they do, what they can do for you. Typical PR marketing plan types of information. In this environment, though, information is really the coin of the realm. People are in the internet for not only for the entertainment value that it might offer, so that you need sites that are interesting and well constructed. I think it is. It's far from reached its potential there, and that's driven to some.
I mean, for a company, is it an entertainment medium?
I think
if I am a company, say in the real estate business, do I want to entertain as well as
not necessarily, but you have to present your information in a catchy way. Dull and dry doesn't make it in this environment. And that's not to say that you need to have clowns doing handsprings through a commercial real estate site, but you do have to offer interactivity. You do have to offer value-added information way beyond what you might in a typical marketing piece.
You talk about a real estate site. We have an illustration of a real estate homepage. Is that what this is?
This is actually a very interesting application. It's a commercial real estate site that brings those individuals who own real estate or commercial space and have it to let with those who are looking for very specific types of properties. So it is a subscription-based environment in which you must belong to this group in order to provide access, get access to the information.
So not everybody can get to it.
There are elements of the site that are available to everyone. There's an interactive directory, for example, that talks about the downtown White Plains area and the restaurants that are available, how close it is to the train station, the train schedules, those types of things. But the very specific information that relates to X amount of square footage for X dollars per year, and the subsequent lists list of detailed properties that are generated as a subscription-based
So it's
host.
possible to lock out only those people. You can only allow those people to come in who have
the secret word.
password.
Right.
Password is
Right.
the term that's used. So I've got a nice brochure and I understand the medium. What do I do, and how do I know that it works?
How do you know that it works? That's the $64,000 question. There's a lot of debate about the success of websites. There's a lot of buzz around the term hits. Hits, in some instances, are equated incorrectly, by the way, to the number of people who visit a site. In fact, what a hit really means in this environment is a request for information. So if you have a page like the one that we were looking at previously, in which you have a page and some images within the context of that page, add all of the various elements up and you know how many pieces of information constitute that page. So to visit the Comrie page, for example, there's a main header graphic, there's a clickable map that takes you to the various sub-elements, and there are a couple of buttons that take you backward and forward and take you home.
But each hit is measured?
They all constitute a component of what makes a hit for that page. So every time that page is requested, it counts as 5 hits because there are 5 separate elements that make it up.
So it's like market research, really, because it tells you what people are interested in.
Absolutely, it's very targeted information. In fact, there are some websites, very well-funded commercial sites, big sites, that track the progress of visitors through their site, and depending upon what they might have looked at today, if they come back to visit next week, they'll present advertisements dynamically based upon the patterns that they'd seen in the past. It's a very powerful medium. Still very much in the development stages as to how to actually analyze that, but there's tremendous potential there.
I've used this term on this program before. I can't say I originated it, but in today's World Wide Web, an era is measured in months.
Or days.
or days, yeah. So we know who we want to reach, and we've designed something. Then the graphics have to be attractive, correct? And then the links are very, very important.
Links are very important.
How do you get people to come to you, and how do you send people to others? Is there some interaction between, do you link with others and they link with you? Is that a way that works?
That's one important way to build traffic, if you will. Perhaps the most important way is to make sure that a site is listed in the various directory systems or search engines. There were a half dozen powerful, good ones until recently. Now there's been a mad proliferation of search engines, and there are probably upwards of 100 of them at this point in time.
These people actually index all websites? Is that the way it works?
No one index actually contains every website. There's no one central Yellow Pages directory, if you will. Each of these directory systems indexes information in a different way, slightly different way. Some of them look at the domain name or the address. Some of them look at the header information or what would appear at the top of your browser. Welcome to Giles Corporation's homepage, something like that.
So if I were looking for information, it would make sense to use whatever search engines I have available, because if one will find certain things and another will find other things.
Exactly. There's a great overlap. There are some systems that are better than others. Some of those which use special software known as robots or spiders actually contain more information. A robot or a spider is a piece of software that literally travels around the internet and collects information about all of the pages that it visits, and then it catalogs it.
Didn't I read somewhere, New York Times perhaps, recently, that said all the information in the world is going to be available? All human knowledge is going to be available through something like this?
That's kind of a scary idea. I think perhaps as we move forward into the future, much more information than has ever been considered will be available in electronic means. With all of the concern about the environment and the need to telecommute and cut back on corporate hours and things like that, it's important that information stores be developed to a larger extent than has ever happened before. But will all the knowledge be in a computer someplace? I don't think so.
Not in a computer, but maybe
Lots of computers.
Somewhere in this World Wide Web.
Yeah, possibly. I still think, though, that if you begin to rely on that, it sort of takes an edge away or puts an edge on humanity that's important to retain, I think.
One of the things that I want to do, we're obviously not going to cover this whole subject in one program, but if anybody has any questions, could they get in touch with you by calling you? Would you like to give your telephone number?
Absolutely. It's 914-941-4586. We're in the Yellow Pages.
Let's do that again.
914-941-4586.
And we'll put it up in the closing credits as well, so anybody has any questions, wants to know something, they could call you about it. I think that you've clarified a great deal here, but what still is not clear for me is how do you get people to come to your site?
Directory systems are an obvious place to begin, but something else that's very important. Any place or any vehicle that's used in a typical marketing way, business cards, stationery, print ads, radio ads, once you establish a web presence or an internet presence of some kind, any kind, you should communicate the vehicle through those other means. You should put your email address on your business cards, put your URL or Uniform Resource Locator, which really only means website address. Any place where you're putting out your fax number, your telephone number, your mailing address. Once that type of information begins to become proliferated, people will begin to find you in various ways. Another very important vehicle is cross-linking or reciprocal linking, so that if you're in an industry or if you're a museum.
Like Caramore is linked to like 100 different sites,
right,
isn't
it's linked to many music and culture sites, and culture and music sites link back to Caramore. There was an interesting study done recently that showed that...
There was an interesting study that was just done that said we've run out of time.
Well, okay, that too.
So we'll have to save that interesting study for another program, and I thank you very much for putting some light on the World Wide Web and websites. The program today is on designing websites, and my guest has been Christine Klauberg Paustian. It's a tough name to remember. And the name of this program is Internet Web Plain Talk. We hope we made the talk plain for you. Go try the web. It's a great place to be. Until next time, keep going at it.